Jida, pure, mine, nation, mine, west, land of the setting Aten, the setting sun. Odwiraman, the purified nation, Apurai Kandu, Apurai Kaitnut, African people, black people, in the land of the setting Aten, sun, the western hemisphere. Odwiraman, the purified nation, spirit genetic descendants of our ancestresses and ancestors of Apurai Ka, Apurai Kayet, Africa, who were forced into the western hemisphere during the Umusuo Kessie, the great perversity, the enslavement era. Odwiraman, spirit genetic descendants of those Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitni ancestresses and ancestors who maintain our ancestral religion, culture, and identity as a nation, and therefore effectively wage war against the whites and their offspring, massacred the whites and their offspring with metal armaments and through chemical and biological weapons of warfare, thereby forcing the end of enslavement in North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. Odwiraman, spirit genetic descendants of those Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitnit ancestresses and ancestors who established independent, sovereign nations, towns, cities, secure in their sovereignty in the Western Hemisphere after liberating themselves from enslavement through war. Amaniye, nationism, Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitnit nationism, African black nationism, the recognition of the Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitni nation, the African nation, the black nation, as a living, breathing entity, an organic entity, of which Apurai Kanu, Apurai Kaitni, Africans, black people, are a component part, an organic entity, governed by a unique spirit, of which each Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitni individual shares. Individual function, family function, clan function, ethnic function, the building blocks and governing structure of nationism, rooted in the unique energy of the region of Asase Afua, our fertile earth mother upon which we dwell, and the blending of Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitni ancestral blood circles, governed by specific aboson, deities within the Omad, the nation, reflective of the divine order of creation. Amaniye, nationism, Apurai Kani, Apurai Kaitni nationism, the purification of nationalism, the completion of the task begun by our ancestresses and ancestors, the restoration of our spirit genetic identity, our clans, our ethnicities, our collective function as Odwiraman, the purified nation of Apurai Kanu, Apurai Kaitnut in the Western Hemisphere, restored upon our own sovereign territory in Apurai Ka, Apurai Kayet, and in the Western Hemisphere, independent, self-governing, and secure in the absolute defense of our sovereignty and the complete eradication of our enemies.
Afrikani, Afrikaitnit. So happy to be here today with you and sharing information. The future is passing out my model. This is the ACCLAIM model. It stands for Austin Coulter, Cultural Leadership Instructional Model. And I created the model because I was at a school that identified, and I say that identified as African-centered, but the leadership was not. Now, I was part of the leadership, but I was one person. So, you know, when you're trying to get everyone to stir the pot the same way, it's a little challenging. So I created the model to assist leadership that identifies as African-centered in their quest to really be African-centered. Does everyone have a copy of the model? Because I have more copies. Okay. This is the Adinkra symbol of Wawa Aba, the seeds of the Wawa tree. Hardiness, toughness, and perseverance. We're talking about the future, and our children are our seeds, and they need hardiness, toughness, and perseverance. An honorary memoriam to Nana Bafo Amakwantia, y'all know Asa Hilliard, and of course the good Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. What is ACCLAIM? It is an Afrocentric tool that may be used to effectuate change in education and leadership that identifies as African people who are African-centered. This was the challenge, you know, in the schools where I worked, that we had African people. They didn't necessarily identify as being African. That's a problem, because the school is saying, you know, we're an African-centered school. And so, who are African-centered and therefore are practitioners of the African worldview. I'm going to stop here again, because when I spoke to the leadership, like top leadership, they had no idea what the African worldview was. One of the leaders told me that the African worldview was a diamond in the rough. Okay. So, as an instrument, ACCLAIM is functionally versatile. It was initially created, you know, like I told you, for African-centered education leadership teams in the schools that identify as African-centered. It is applicable, now this is an expansion part right here, because it's applicable whether in a home school, physical school, public or charter, or in a facility or center that provides education support for African youth, because this is what's happening now. Right? In Pennsylvania, a lot of the parents are homeschooling their children. It's a large black homeschool population in Pennsylvania. You can check for Ama Mazama's book on homeschooling in the 21st century. She talks about something called racial protectionism. And she's saying that wherever we put our children at, they're being attacked. And so we must arm them. We have to arm them. We have to give them ammunition. So if they're in private, public, charter, you know, even at home, you know, because you got sometimes you got the TV, and you got sometimes you got people that are engaging with your children that, you know, might be telling them things or doing things to them that are not good for them. So what is the African worldview? So here it is. A system of values and attributes that reflect a group's perception. So I have to put African people in there. Because every time we talking about anything dealing with us, it's always, oh, well, is it them too? You know, is it this group and that group too? No, we just talking about African people. Let me be clear. We only talking about African people. I don't have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with that. So we talking about groupness, sameness, commonality, cooperation, collective responsibility, interdependence, group survival, and a oneness with nation. If we just would incorporate those things into our lives, we'd be so much better off as a people. So here's what it looked like defined and in practice. You could read the definition, but I'm going to talk about the practice. Groupness is that we think and behave in ways that are beneficial to the collective existence of African people. We see this not happening all day, every day. This is why we have challenges in our lives. Sameness. We recognize similar life experiences resulting from being African. There is no cultural appropriation among African people. You know, we have our family talking about that the Africans born here are practicing cultural misappropriation. What? Go away with that. No, that's not happening. Commonality. Acknowledge that those shared features and qualities specific to African people. You know, we so used to everyone else being included in our world. You know, we don't even realize the culture banditry that goes along. They steal our culture and sell it back to us. You know, Cooperation, we have to make the effort to practice sisterhood and brotherhood with fellow Africans, and I meant to put with those fellow Africans who want to practice sisterhood and brotherhood with you, with us, because the ones that don't, leave them where they at. This is the problem. This is not a product for sale. You know, you either want it or you don't. If you don't want it, stay where you at. I only want to be with the ones who want to be with me. Collective responsibility. Obligate yourself as an African who was a part of a group that started humanity. Very important thing to tell our children that we started this human thing. This is ours. Claim it. Interdependence. Rely on each other via reciprocity for the good of Africans. So whatever you're doing, make sure that it's for the good of African people. Otherwise, what's the point? It's like you're killing yourself. You might as well just, slit your throat. Group survival, utilize a collective approach in our daily lives to maintain our existence as African people. Again, practicing that sisterhood and brotherhood with those who want to practice it with you. Have a oneness with nature. We recognize ourselves as a part of an entire collective of living and spiritual entities. I'm going to get my flash drive. So here's what it would look like in a school or place, location where, you are really being African-centered. You become aware of and practice African value systems. This is a problem with leadership in schools that identify as being African-centered. So, 10 virtues of commit. If you are a parent, you're an adult, you're teaching an African child, you want your child to know this, you better be on point with it. You better know all of them. You better know all of the virtues, the 10 virtues of commit, because they're going to ask you. They're going to challenge you. This is what my students would do all the time. Any information that I would give them, they would come and question me about it. And then they would be amazed, or as they would say, salty, because I knew the answer. But I told them, whatever I'm giving you, I studied it already, and then when I decide to give it to you, I'm studying it again. Because I got to be sharp, because I know that you're coming to ask me that question, or ask me questions. So the teachings of Patai Hotep, I will have my children define them, and then apply them to things that are happening, in their lives. 42 admonitions of my eye, the same thing, thinking in African time and in Nguzo Saba. Now I know there are some scholars, I'm going to stop on African time, but there's some scholars that say, well, we don't really know, what year it is. I don't care, I know it's not 2016. I don't care, it's 6256, it's 13,016. I just don't want it to be 2016. So that's the issue, and then the concern, and then you can, teach your children. This is a good way to teach your children African language too, to have them know, the days of the week, the months, the year in African language by dealing with them with African time. So again, I'm dealing with in practice. Identify with being mentally, physically, spiritually a person who is African. A lot of us, we really have some problems with that. And I know it's a lot of things coming at us, but you got to take a position. And where is your circle? Stand in your circle. Stand in your blood circle with your ancestors. So we always encourage my students too, and my grandchildren, my children, to challenge racism that attacks African intellectual wisdom, African concepts of beauty, enslavement versus slavery, and challenge racism that continues the slaughter of African people worldwide via systemic destruction, forced displacement, and human trafficking. I want to stop at the human trafficking because we just had an incident in Berks County, Pennsylvania, where the Amish community, there was a mother and father, and there was a Jewish man that helped them with some finances that they were having. And so they gifted him their daughter. And in the process, he had sired 2 children with her. By the time the system got to this family, the mother was staying there with 8 more of their daughters. And so, you know, what ended up happening is now they're in jail on $1 million bond, but this is the kind of things that happen. So when it comes out, like those little hamlets and things where people are living in the suburbs and it's so nice and everything, it's a lot of different things going on, a lot of evil and a lot of things that should not be happening. So you know if it's happening amongst them, it's just a matter of time before they get to us. And a lot of times they get to our children through group homes and children that are homeless and things like that. We'll have parents that want to, you know, swallow that European Kool-Aid. That stuff takes nasty. So in practice, commonality is where you display an awareness of the unique existence of African people, our life experiences, our language, our appearance, and our creative character. And this is where the culture bandits come in at. And you know, next thing you know, they claim everything. I was having a conversation with my son. There was a documentary on Tupac, and it was produced by Stan Lathan, who is Sanaa Lathan, the actress' father. He's white. And I said to him, you know, I don't like how this is going. I don't like that this is happening. I said, because what's going to happen is that before you know it, they're going to say that Europeans were the creators of hip-hop, and they were the ones that made Tupac famous or whatever. Well, sure enough, the documentary opened up with a white man talking about Tupac. Then my son was like, you know, these are good lessons when you call it out, and it hits him right there right after you say it. So we have to deal with our ancestral connection, our human anteriority. There's nothing wrong with our children knowing that we're first. You know, we're first. We will be the last. That be culture bandits, our ebonics, our adornment styles, our innovativeness in the arts and the inventions. Cooperation and practice. Again, practice sisterhood and brotherhood with fellow Africans who reciprocate that practice. I got it in there. Okay, good. All right. So we commit to initiation and maintenance of Iwa Ray Ray, that good character. We learn and teach sacred geometry, African fractals, Susu economics, global African language, reading, writing, and African script. Did I bring my book? There's a book I want to refer you to called African Alphabets, The Story of Writing in Africa by Sadi, I hope I'm saying his name right, Mafu Ndikwe. And he talks, he has different African syllabaries all throughout the book, you know. And I'm teaching my granddaughter to write African Alphabets, The Story of Writing in Africa. African Alphabets, yep. Taking African is with a K. And just a sidebar, so I have the K's in here, not the C's, because in African alphabets, the author talks about that in the African languages, you never see Africa spelled with a C, always with a K. Just a little example. So land and property development, tactile business. What's tactile business development? Anybody know what that is?
What is it?
Tactile business.
Clothing and flooring, tile, different chemicals they use to make tile, floor tile.
Make things with your hand. Right? So the girl, especially for the girls, like that knitting and crocheting and sewing, you know, that's good. We need that, like, you know, take it back to the old school. And of course, technology and group development. And so what your children will do is watch what you do. You need to belong to some of this. Okay? Belong to some of it. I'm in a virtual Susu economics group on Facebook. And the sacred geometry, I learned that. The African fractals are new to me, especially I'm doing the African script. But my children will say to me, well, what? Okay, Mom, like, you got the PhD, why are you still learning it? Because it's here, and I'm going to learn it. I'm going to learn the information. Learning does not stop, so it's the point. So when we want to practice collective responsibility, we want to implement conscious commitment towards encouraging the development of African values in African children and African families. There's no other way for you to do this than by example. Because you got the TV, you got the music, you know, you got all of these things that are culturally bandit infused, And so, you know, our children aren't really getting it. Sometimes you have to get in there and break that up for them. So, daily personal our story lessons. What's your great-grandma's name? I ask my children that, my students, they don't know. What do you mean you don't know your great-grandma's name? Go home and ask your mom. Ask your dad. How did your family get to be in Philadelphia? Okay, you from Jamaica? You from Haiti? How did your family get here? How come you don't know that story? Go and ask your parents that story. And then I got the parents that come, but that's okay. I can handle them. They good. We hug and, you know, we get it in. So of course the old cry complex, right? We got these are things we have to practice and know of ourselves in order for our children to follow suit, right? We need to have those interactive experiences that reflect African value systems, like the 3 essences of humanity. See before you speak, before you act. All the time, real simple. Children can do that. Children do that all the time. That deep well of African thought, the practice of African time, the day, month, year, and space. So that reciprocity is counting on fellow Africans and in turn supporting fellow Africans. We need to rely on one another, be a reciprocity for the good of Africans by supporting black-owned businesses that support the black community, because you know it's some black-owned businesses that don't support our community. They just take our money just like, you know, the Asians, the Arabs, the you know, all the different other groups. They take our money and ship it right back out of the community. We don't want to support them. We want to tell them about themselves first. And then, you know, we want to give them a chance to change it up. But, you know, if that's how they insist on being, we don't want to support them. You have to participate in that intergenerational cultural transmission, which goes both ways. I know in here I'm talking about it as the African elders teach African youth, but African youth teach us too. Right? Okay, how to speak and dress respectfully among and with one another. We need to further participate in sharing survival strategies that assist African people in navigating in a hostile world, because everywhere African people are, it's a hostile world for the most part. Everyone know about what's going on in West Papua New Guinea with the Indonesians killing African people like it's a sport, and for nothing, because they want the land. They want the land. And so, you know, the Indonesian soldiers come, they're kicking them in the head. They have the men laying head down, like in a V shape. This their head, and this is their feet. You know, while they just go over there and mug their children and smack the babies and stuff. This is on Facebook. Benny Wenda is the leader of the WPNG. They need our help. They need our assistance. Support WP in West Papua New Guinea. The Africans are catching it. Not that we're not catching it everywhere else, but it's a little extreme over there. And so things we could do like that over here is that Indonesian businesses, you might not want to support them, because that money is going to, you know, to the genocide of the New Guineas and the Africans in West Papua New Guinea. We need to expose African children to perceptions held of them by members of society. So, I used to take my son in the store, and I say, son, don't run around, take your hands out your pockets, and don't run around the store. Stay right near me. This is how I had to walk with my son when he was younger, until he got that message, and he had to, you know, process how to walk safely. You know, he still get picked up regularly in the neighborhood sweeps that they do on Tuesday and Thursday in my community. Yeah, neighborhood sweeps. They just sweep them up. Anytime they outside the door, it's 9:30. They outside the door. Let's sweep them up. Let's see who got drugs and guns in their pockets. Let's see who we can make money off of. Huh? No, my son is grown. But they pick up the ones that look, you know, because some of our babies be hairy. They pick them up too. You know, they got hair on their face, but they 16, right? We have to assist in the comprehension of the fact that the existence of racial profiling, oppression, discrimination, and the invisibility factor are real for African people worldwide. Y'all know what the invisibility factor is, right? You standing in line, and people will say, Oh, are you in line? No, I'm just standing here. You know, the invisibility factor. Oh, I didn't know that that was your seat. My book is right here. So that's real. You know, we have to, and that's, you know, that's just stemming from disrespect, you know, and so we have to teach our children, teach our family to help people respect us. Did you do that? Did that come to you like that?
What?
Did this came to you like that? The
The way.
the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I don't remember doing. Okay. I don't remember doing all that. Okay, so in Oneness with Nature, in practice, you identify and love yourself as a part of an entire collective of living entities on this planet. You practice respecting the rights of all living things and see yourselves as a part of all living things. So when you respect the environment, then you are also respecting your own environment. Living things, I'm talking about plants and animals. I'm not talking about the other humans.
That's what I was about to ask.
Hello, that disrespect us. No, that's not weird. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Clarify. So when do you know that leadership is aware of the African worldview? And if you are a leadership in an African-centered school, you have to be an instructional leader. You cannot just lead. You have to instruct too, because just you know you have to be on your awareness and concern to teach wherever you are. You never know when you're going to run into the children, when they're going to run up to you and ask you something. You better have the correct answer for it. Even though our children are brilliant, because even when they don't know that the answer, they know when you give them the correct answer. Brilliant. They know. So instructional leaders will, when they display aspects of the African worldview on a consistent basis, and is always addressing the needs and concerns of African people worldwide. So you come in, you talk about what's happening in the world. You're always talking about with African people. Always. Well, what about the other people? I'm talking about African people. We're going to talk about African people. That's what we're talking about. African people. You African. We're going to talk about African people. That's what we're doing. And then I always get the, oh, well, my mom said that I'm not African. Okay. I would say, okay, I don't, no disrespect to the parents at all. None of that. Okay. And here we're going to talk about African people. That's what we're talking about. What can you do? All right, so I get some for instance. Okay, so here's the challenge. And then the solutions should come up. This is amazing how this came. I did not do all of that. Where's the solution? Okay. So, all right, here's that. Okay. All right. So the students will always experience challenges with the school dress code. So you assist the students in understand, comprehending the idea of their individuality being a part of a collective whole. So this is our school, this is our family, this is what we want to wear, so that everyone knows that you are part of this collective, that you are part of this family. Students are frustrated about police brutality, explain the necessity of interdependence among African people, and give consistent, numerous examples. So why do they keep choking black men? Why are they trying to lynch 12-year-old girls in Waco, Texas? Why? Why are they doing that? You have to explain this to them so that they know. And you have to discuss racism and hatred. You have to, you have to discuss that with your children. So, Afrocentric instructional leader. Now, mind you, I use that interchangeably. Afrocentric, African-centered, all the same thing for me. I'm talking about this. So, the Afrocentric instructional leader is knowledgeable of the African worldview and the African our story. So, when the student comes to you and say, "Well, who is Patrice Lumumba?" You better know who Patrice Lumumba is. And if you don't know, you said, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to you. But it's better. It's more impactful if you know. What happened to Patrice Lumumba? I was watching that documentary. Who are the Belgians? Why did they kill? Did you think that this country had something to do with that? I mean, they're thinking, and they are processing information and things, you know. Some of the questions that they're asking you are out of fear. Because, like, is that going to happen to me? You know? So, an Afrocentric instructional leader has transformed by incorporating a majority of the components of the African worldview into his or her life. The students will see this. They will see this. They will see that you are a practitioner of the African worldview because you are consistent and you are the same all the time. You are always talking about rootness, sameness, commonality. You know, you're talking about that and you're acting in that way also. So the question was, my niece was in my class, and so my family, you know, they celebrate Thanksgiving, and I don't. And so they said, oh, tell the truth. Don't eat out. She come over and she eat, right? She be eating at Thanksgiving. She said, nope. Nope. Shut all that down. Just shut it down. I'm consistent. I'm not lying to you. If I did Thanksgiving, I'll tell you. I don't do that. I can't do that. I'm not doing it. Okay. So also the Afrocentric instructional leader facilitates or instructs and administrates. So you gotta do two things at once. Just like you live in your daily life as an African, we'll be doing 10 things at once. So the Afrocentric instructional leader uses a flexible approach and attempts to maintain stability in the school day for students, parents, and staff. You gotta be flexible. You gotta deal with your family, with the family as they come. The Afrocentric instructional leader is visible, available, and able as a flexible communicator. So you might have to talk to grandpa, and you gotta talk to dad, and you gotta talk to baby boy, all at one time. You better have it together and be able to answer all of their questions and concerns and satisfy them that you are concerned about their child. All right. So this is the part here that leaders of schools that identify as African-centered have, the establishment of a cultural allegiance with African people. So I can't see how you can be of a cultural allegiance with African people and you a Buddhist. I can't see it. Or you a Quaker. Or you a Christian. I can't see it. Muslim, I can't see it. I can't see it. One of my students got in touch with me recently and said, well, Iya, she said, I see you as a person that, you stand your ground, but you don't really pledge no allegiance to any of the organized religions. I said, that's right, because I don't, and I'm not. I said, my cultural allegiance is with my ancestors. Now, I know you've heard me say that. She said, yeah, I've heard you say that. Now, she's coming out of practicing Islam. And so she said, well, what are some of the things, that I should do? Why she had to ask me this? And she had that conversation started at 11:30 and it ended at 1:15. But, I told her, in the end, I told her I'm proud that that she's making that transition to move towards being more in a cultural allegiance with her ancestors. Cultural location, you think, you speak, you act in the best interest of African people all day, every day. It's not part-time. It's not a quarter time. It's not at night. It's not seasonal. All right? It's all the time. All the time. So, see who and Hector. 3 essences of humanity. Think before you speak, before you act, all the time. All the time. Sometimes you slip up. That's all right. You slip up. You got a lot of things coming at you. So sometimes you might slip up. It's okay. Get back on that circle and do what you're supposed to do. Okay, so what does that look like when someone has accepted the African worldview? Because that's key. That's key. So it shows both inside and outside. So it's not surface. If it's surface level, like, you know, this might be surface level, right? But it's deep with me too. So what you gonna find that out, you gotta come talk to me. You know. So when a person has accepted the African worldview, aspects of it are always reflected in their thoughts, words, and actions. They always place a central emphasis on African people regardless of the event, situation, or occasion. Okay, the fires are burning in California. Where the African people is? African people out there? That's my first question. The African people out there getting burning up? You know, we Ghana had a flood. No, they didn't hit the news at all. Didn't hit the news at all.
Italy went off chart when they had a little bombing over there, a little tiny bombing.
Where?
In Italy, France.
Oh, okay. They had a little bombing and it was just all over the place. So, cause that tells you. So you explain. So when my son saying, well, why don't they do that? Because they own the media. So this is what they can do, and so this is why you have to watch other additional media sources like Press TV, CCT. You know, go to the different websites and get the information off of the country's news pages that you're interested in. You know, you can get that information like that. You don't have to just rely on, you know, the local propagandistic news media here, which I'm going to call that. I can call that because when we look at what happened to the parents of the child who slipped under the cage at the Cincinnati Zoo versus the parents of the child who got eaten by that alligator, y'all know that body wasn't intact. Y'all know they lying, right? Y'all know they lying. There's no way that body was intact. Okay, there's no body. It's gone. That's why they killed 6 of the alligators. They done cut the alligators up. They got that baby out there and whatever left of them, and they gonna have it met. But the white parents, what happened with them? They gonna get paid. They gonna get paid. They ain't got to work no more. They gonna get paid. The black family is still living down, you know, the investigation into their lives. You know, oh, the father had a criminal record. So what? He wasn't even there. What they got to do with the baby climbing under the cage? Why you not talking about what the Cincinnati Zoo need to do? You know. Okay, so a person who has accepted African worldview does not ascribe to a minority descriptor. No. Oh, we're not minorities. I call it, you know, we're not minor, we're major. We are so major. All right, so when you are Afrocentric, when you finally get to that point where you're an Afrocentric leader, you practice the African worldview through Afrocentricity. You know, you reinforce the African worldview as a means of locating and centering present conceptions of reality in the African world. So they want to present Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe as a crazy man, right? But you want to let people know he's not crazy. He's getting the land back that was stolen from African people. What's crazy about that? He's not crazy. Well, yeah, well, he giving it to his soldiers, and so what? He should give it to his soldiers. Just because there's a couple of y'all out there that didn't, you know, you didn't get the land, you mad. Now, you know, work on getting the land. Do what you need to do to get the land. As long as it ain't in the hands of them again, that's, you know, I'm good with that. So location is a person's mindset or cultural allegiance. African people advocate for everyone else over themselves, function in a cultural location that is not their own, i.e., Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and so many of them, you know. Centering is the process of consistently viewing oneself within the realm of one's own life experiences. African people who think of African people first and tell their own stories in their own words will act on problem solving, whatever is happening to African people. This is African agency. This is what we talk about when we talk about African agency. So African cultural allegiance and African centeredness equals African agency. You can't have African agency without that. So what are your beliefs? Thomas Jefferson is the author / editor of the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson was a plagiarist and a child molester. Which one you believe? The #1 disease that kills African people is HIV/AIDS. The #1 ailment that kills African people is malaria. You will never hear them talk about malaria killing African people, because it's killing African people. Again, what are your beliefs? All doctors diagnose and prescribe medicine for their patients equally. Doctors, this is from a study. Doctors, black and white, practice unintentional racism in their diagnosis and prescribing of medicine for their patients. For instance, high blood pressure and diabetes are supposed to be temporary, but they make so much money off of drugging us that it becomes a permanent ailment. Right? Thank you, pharmaceutical. Thank you. Philadelphians can continue to rally, meet, pass laws, and stop the killing amongst African youth. City and state government should enforce laws that address, I'll call them hoes, the police, I say hoes. Police brutality, gun runners, and illegal gun sellers. They never do that. They never do that, because that's where the money is. Wherever the money is, they're not going to change the law. That's why they're not going to change the gun law. It's money. A lot of money in there. And they can keep killing us. Legally. So y'all know none of those cops are going to do any time for Freddie Gray, right? Y'all know that already, right? Don't get upset when, you watching it one after the other and it's just not going to happen. Those black ones not going to do no time. No white ones not going to do no time.
The black ones might.
I disagree. I disagree. They already paid Freddie Gray family. They paid them. Here you go. They got $6.4 million. They paid. That's done deal. This is all circumstance. All I hate him. Okay. George Washington enslaved 319 Africans. 9 of them once resided with him in Philadelphia. This is African location. Is it? Mainstream location. George Washington was a hero who was the first president of the U.S. and he never told a lie. And so y'all know those, the dentures that they talk about? They talk about his wooden teeth. Okay? They were not wooden teeth. They were the teeth of his enslaved Africans. Africans fought bravely in the wars of this country, leading to their own physical freedom. Abraham Lincoln freed the slave. Well, first of all, what's a slave? Who you talking about? Who you talking about? All I know is Lincoln regularly called us niggas in the White House. That's all. That's what I know. A majority of the presidents of this country were slaveholders. A majority of the presidents of this country were noblemen. Y'all know George Washington had a problem when he came to Philadelphia with his 9 slaves, because I think it was two or three of them were leaving. They abandoned ship. He tried to get them back, and the African community was like, "No, you're not getting them back. That's not going to happen." And so he had to let them go. The African worldview and intergenerational cultural transmission. So this is when we have that interchange and exchange of information and practicing the concepts of the African worldview, it further empowers the facilitators, the entire school family, the parents, and the students. I mean, even the cleanup crew better have some information. The cleanup crew, the lunch people, they have to know this. Otherwise, it becomes a problem. Wherever it's a leak, wherever it's a little hole, that hole's going to get bigger. Because we're dealing with systemic racism. We're going to break their system. This is hilarious. I didn't set this up like it's funny. Okay. So intergenerational cultural transmission is a transference of survival strategies from African elders to African youth. And I got to change this because it's the reverse as well, from African youth to African elders. city. All right, so Afrocentric instructional leader, you know how they do that auto spell? Afrocentric instructional leaders recognize the need for a process where the entire school family culturally transmits the African worldview to the students by practice and model. Because they're going to, the children are geniuses. They watch everything you do. They're watching what you do. They're watching to look for parallels between what you say and what you do. And whenever it's different, they dismiss what you say. So we need policies and procedures that encourage, motivate, and demand usage of the African worldview. What's the point otherwise? You're just doing what the other schools or learning institutions are doing. So what do they look like? What do those look like? So here are policies, and here are procedures of African worldview. So the policy is the students will have days off from school on African ancestors' Earth Days. I forgot the word Earth Day. And the procedure is the actual celebration of that African ancestor. So they might have that day off from school, you know, but they have an assignment as well, or they have the information. We've already done the assignment where we learned about that African ancestor. The policy is the creation of a recentering room. And procedure, what that look like is mediation versus suspension as a discipline strategy. Because sometimes the children just having a bad day. You know, you have a bad day, so, you know, sometimes you just talk it out or give them a hug or let them sit somewhere quiet and close their eyes for a minute, you know, meditate, and they'll be all good. The policy, the provision of an African family atmosphere on the school site and beyond. All right, good character, EY sessions, and reciprocal reference between student and school. We have school family where we, you know, we use those terms, mama, baba, ndugu, dada. Okay, so this is very relative to what Kwesi was just talking about when he said, like, we still, like, we're stuck, you know, we stagnated. Like, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schools. This is Philly. 7 schools in Philly, so 4 of them are closed, like right now. And so, you know, and I think that those network of schools, had they worked together, come together, work together, and all been, you know, enforcing usage of the African worldview, it would have been something different. Because when one school was threatened with closing, then all of the schools come and say, no, you're not closing this school. Like the parents say, we want our tax dollars to keep this school open. Because, you know, y'all, we're in a place that's identified, Washington D.C., as a place as taxation, a place that is taxation without representation. But African people worldwide experience taxation without representation. Every day, all day, take our money and, you know, do whatever they want to do. Philadelphia just passed a soda tax where they're going to put, I think it's 1.5% per ounce on the sodas and on sugary drinks. So this money is supposed to go to the school district. And my question is, well, what happened to the liquor tax, the parking authority tax, and the cigarette tax? And so now we got the soda tax. But none of the money gets to the school. Where's the money going? Taxation without representation. And so why is this important? So we need to expand the network of home schools, public charter schools, and I only have the public charter schools because we have to meet our families where they are, and a lot of our families still have children in, you know, the public charter schools. But the best thing is the home school, independent, and education support centers that expose African youth to the African worldview. Actually, the education support centers is something new, but we have these places called Sylvan Learning Center, the Goddard School, stuff like that, and they're education centers. We need our education support centers as well. It's important because it's revolutionary and empowering. It provides opportunities for African families to survive with dignity, and it reinforces African beneficence and that good character. Okay, those things, doing those things that are good for African people, good for African families. in African youth and the African, even if the distribution of information is different, an expanded network of education and learning experiences that offer exposure to and reinforcement of the African worldview could guarantee the potential recognition, acknowledgement, and belief in the immunity of over 3,500 African children. That was the children in that network of schools in Philly. Okay, and this network in Philly. 3,500 children. But now it's, that's not what's going to happen because 4 of the schools have closed. So how is this so? Students that are cognizant of basic African value systems, includes cyber, the 3 essences of humanity, are in a position to comprehend deeper concepts of African culture. So this is something I talk about in my research too. Like what I found was because the leadership was shallow or surface level, then the whole school was shallow or surface level. So in order for the school to be deep, then administration has to be deep, and that was not, that was not happening. So for instance, if you have a child that has a question about the deep well African thought, and she says, or he says, I want to talk to you about these concepts in the deep well African thought. I got this lesson, from Iya Adjua I got to complete, and I need help. Now this adult has been set up as a JEGNA support person for the student. That JEGNA support person better be on their game and able to answer and help the child. Okay? The comparative worldview model, our children need to know what that is. And, and then, and so the whole time you want to work on that. Right? Because silence is golden. Right? And she don't, you don't want her to be, like what she's going through. Now, did you have the opportunity to, was there the availability for you to move her to another class?
There was the opportunity, but she would still have to be in his class the next year. So
okay, so might as well just leave her.
Yeah, that's what I
there.
said.
And I don't know. You got to maybe teach her to be agreeable. Possibly, teach her to be agreeable, to the because he's in control.
She's not argumentative, it's just that she wants to let you know that she's right because she read this book and
right. So this is what I'm talking. So explain to her that everyone has their own truth.
Yes.
And right now her teacher's truth is this.
Okay.
And so she has to give that back. Give that to the teacher. Give the teacher his truth so that he knows that she knows his truth. But that doesn't have to be her truth. Yeah. Any more questions? No more questions? I'm taking pre-orders for the book. You come to my table, check me out. I got some DVDs and you all have the copy of the model and look me up on social media. I appreciate any feed forward that you have for me so I can do a better job.
So what we're going